Hey there, super friends. It's Joey with Last Point Gaming. Today is Thursday, January 13th, 2022. How y'all doing today? I know I said last week I was going to talk about Magic this week, but last week was pretty much a straight bitch fest, right? Turned out I had a lot more pent-up resentment towards all that bullshit than I realized. And I feel like if I talk about Magic, it's just going to degrade into another bitch fest, and I really shouldn't do two of those in a row. So instead, I'm going to talk about something I'm actually pretty jazzed about. And that is Storybook Brawl. So, I don't know who owns Storybook Brawl, and I'm starting to get the impression that it might be Luis Scott Vargas, aka LSV, which I have to examine how I feel about that. I'm not a huge fan of LSV, but I don't know. I don't hate the guy or anything. But the game is solid. So as long as whoever actually owns this thing doesn't end up with a class action lawsuit against them for, gender-based discrimination in the workplace, sexual harassment, and just a whole pile of grossness. Fine, we're cool. Alright, so you get Storybook Brawl through Steam, or at least that's where I got it. I don't know if there's another place to download it. It's a free download. It is in early access. You can absolutely play it for free. I played it for free for over a week. Had a great time with it. The only reason I spent the $5 on the early backer pack, which got me an alternate frame for my hero placard, a couple extra emotes, and I think it was 300 gems. It's $5 for the pack. The only reason I bought it was to support the game because I was having a good time with it. I don't really feel like you need to put money into this game at this point. Maybe that'll change over time. But right now, the free-to-play experience is actually really quality. Alright, so there is a YouTube tutorial. When you launch the game, there's a tutorial button. If you click that, it'll take you to a YouTube tab in your browser. I haven't watched it. I don't know how it is. As soon as we went there, I went, nope. But you can play practice. And what's nice about that is if you click practice, it'll queue you up with 7 bots, because the lobby is 8 players. And everything will be exactly the same as if you were playing live, except there's no timers. So you can read over all 4 heroes that you're offered. Now on that note, that's one of the... in fact, I think is the only thing you spend in-game currency on. So when you're offered heroes, they're a line of 4 across the screen. The 2 leftmost heroes are always free, and the 2 rightmost heroes, if you have not already paid to unlock them, you would need to pay to unlock. You can either pay 100 gems, which is the in-game currency that you buy with real dollars, or 4,000 fairy dust. And you start with 4,000 fairy dust, as soon as you queue up, launch the application, you have 4,000 fairy dust. So you can buy your first hero for free, essentially. You accrue fairy dust through gameplay. Depending on what your rank is, what your rank points are at, depends on how low in the ladder you'll get fairy dust. You never get fairy dust taken away. So, I am in the legendary rank band from 3,000 to 4,000 MMR. So I think if I'm like 7th or 8th, I get absolutely nothing. If I'm 5th or 6th, I get like 5 fairy dust or something small like that. And then the higher up you place, the more fairy dust you get. I think for a top slot for me at this point is like 100 fairy dust. And some MMR. And top 4 is considered a quote-unquote win, no matter where you are in the rank structure. And your first win of the day, you get bonus fairy dust and bonus rank. Like bonus MMR. So accruing fairy dust actually pretty, easy as you play. Because when you're in the lower rank bands, you'll accrue fairy dust. Like for 8th place, you'll still get like 25 fairy dust or some shit. So you can build up fairy dust, build up your supply of it to unlock the heroes that you like. I do kind of wish in practice you could pick any hero so you could get a feel for how it works before you spend fairy dust to unlock one. But I understand that they're like simulating live gameplay as much as possible. So you pick your hero, and then you go into your first shopping phase. You start at level 2, which that kind of bugs me. Yeah. You start at level 2. Like, I don't know why you don't start at level 1 and go 1 through 5 instead of 2 through 6. But, whatever, it's not my game. I didn't build it. Maybe there's a reason. And level 2 minions cost 2 gold, level 3 minions cost 3, and so on up to level 6. Gotta pause y'all real quick. Okay, so, and you start off with 2 gold. When you come back, you get 3 gold, 4 gold, all the way up to 12. You max it, your bank is 12. Though, if something causes you to get gold in combat, you can go above what your max is for that round. Leveling. You don't have to pay to level like you did in Battlegrounds. This game is, in a lot of ways, very similar to Battlegrounds, but it has a couple key differences that really set it apart. So, you don't pay to level up. Every combat, you get 1 experience point. Once you get 3 experience points, you level up to the next level. There are a couple spells, which is one of the big differences between this and Battlegrounds, that will give you extra XP. I don't really buy them. I mostly just let my character naturally level, because the XP spells tend to be on the expensive side, so you're kind of doing it at the expense of buying minions. Like, maybe once you're up in the higher brackets, and especially, like, if you have your comp kind of figured out, your board's pretty set, and you're not seeing, like, you're just cycling for triples, okay, sure, but generally, I don't buy the XP spells, because they're expensive, and I'll just naturally level. The little level marker on your hero will indicate how much experience you have towards the next level. It's like a pale green circle, and as you get experience, like the first experience, a third of that circle will light up like a more vibrant shade of green, and so on until it completes full circle and you level up. So spells. You can only buy 1 spell per round, per shopping phase, unless something says otherwise. There are a couple spells that, on the spell itself, it says you can buy another spell this turn. There are a couple heroes. Well, no, actually, there's not. The only hero that affects how many spells you can buy a turn is Loki, because Loki casts a random spell at the beginning of each shopping phase, and so spells don't show up in your shop, you can't buy them. But you're usually offered 1 spell in each like shop grouping, but there are a couple heroes that offer you 2 instead. So leveling up minions, or upgrading minions. There are 2 ways you can do it. Some minions are questing minions, and it'll tell you on the minion what the quest is. At level 2, like the one that instantly pops to mind, because I'm not sure there's another questing minion at level 2, is Cinderella. She is a mage princess, and her quest is to cast 4 spells. Once you complete that objective, she upgrades. When a minion upgrades, you're offered 3 treasures of the same level as the minion you just upgraded, and you pick one. You can only have 3 treasures at a time, so if you already have 3 treasures, you can, even if you don't have 3 treasures, if you're offered a treasure and you don't like any of them, you can hit skip and get 2 gold. But if you do have 3 treasures and your offerings are better than one of the treasures you have, you can select the new one, and then it'll have you select which one of your existing treasures you want to discard for it. Treasures are pretty great. They really change the landscape of the game and can take you from, I'm not doing great, to suddenly, alright, I'm pretty solid. There is one hero that you can't get treasures. It's King Midas. It only takes 2 copies of a minion to upgrade it, but you can't get treasures. Speaking of that, that's the other way you can level up minions. Not questing minions, you can buy 3 copies of the same minion, and they'll condense into 1 upgraded copy. I gotta pause y'all again real quick. So, now there are 2 heroes that affect this. King Midas, I already mentioned. You only need... it's arrows. You don't even have to read anything. It's arrows. Yeah, with King Midas, you only need 2 copies of any minion to upgrade it, but you also don't get treasures. I've used King Midas. He's fine. Like, I think I hit a top 4 with him, but, like, I don't know. Treasures are a pretty big deal. And then there's Waddle, who is a pudgy little penguin, which is fucking adorable. And that's your level 2 and 3 animals. You only need 2 copies to upgrade. I've heard people say that Waddle's, like, pretty great as a hero. I think I've used that one twice and, like, just got my ass handed to me and was like, this hero's dumb. So if you're a fan of Waddle, you go. I am not. Minions come in 2 alignments and unaligned. So you have good and evil, and then you have neutral or unaligned. There's a couple different tribes. There's princes and princesses. Generally, things that benefit one will benefit the other as well. Mages, monsters, tree ants, dwarves, animals. And then there's a couple, like, one-off tribes. Like, there's an evil queen that her type is queen. But I think there's only one. Like, I can only think of one queen. There's Humpty Dumpty is a good egg, and he is the only egg. Puff Puffs, they are the only puff type creatures. I feel like I missed a tribe there. Animals, tree ants, monsters, mages, princes and princesses, dwarves. I really feel like I'm missing one. Oh well. And, you know, just like in Battlegrounds, generally your goal is to build some sort of synergy. I find that evil comps tend to do better because your goal there is to get the ancient sarcophagus treasure, which has every time an evil minion you control dies, deal 3 damage to a random opposing minion. And 3 damage doesn't sound like a lot, but it is when, you know, it's free, basically. Like, I'm fairly partial to the monsters comp, though tree ants are also very good. Animals too. Like, every tribe has the potential to have a really good late game. It's just, you need to find the right pieces. All the heroes seem pretty balanced. Like, you have Krampus and Mrs. Claus, and their hero powers are pretty basic. Krampus gives all your evil minions +1/+1. Mrs. Claus gives all your good minions +1/+1. You know, it doesn't sound like a great power, but it's consistent. You can consistently build into a comp that uses your hero power. There are some heroes that seem to have incredibly powerful abilities, but the drawback is you have to find the right minions to make it good. So, like, Gepetto is pretty great. His thing is, when you summon a minion during combat, give it +X+X, where X is your level. So when you're level 4, you give it +4/+4. Which, again, doesn't sound like a lot, but if you can build into that comp, you're probably going to be on animals, because animals have the highest density of pop-apart minions in a single tribe. So you can get Bearstein at level 6, which gives all your animals, like, it's +1/+1 or +2/+2. I don't remember which. But when you summon a minion during combat, you double its power and toughness. There's a treasure that when you summon a minion during combat, I don't know the name of that one, give it +X+X, where X is equal to the number of minions you've already summoned this combat. So with all these things together with Gepetto, it's pretty good. Like, the extra oomph from Gepetto's hero power makes it a very, very solid plan. The problem is that when you're Gepetto and you cannot find pop-apart minions for anything. You're like, this is great, this is fine. I can't find minions that leave behind a token when they die. Awesome. There's Miri the Lion. That one's hero power is your princes and princesses have +2/+1 for each time you've upgraded a prince or princess during this game, which again is really great because the prince and princess comp is very solid, and you know, you can get things set up and have a really great comp. But if you can't find princes and princesses, or you get stuck in pair hell, yeah, yesterday at some point, I don't remember what hero I had or anything like that, I had 5 pairs and couldn't find triples for any of them. I'm like, this is the worst feeling ever. So again, like, if you can't upgrade your princes and princesses, your hero power essentially doesn't exist. So it is a very powerful hero power, but the variance of the game keeps it kind of balanced. I wouldn't say that there's any one hero that, you know, this is the best hero in the game and the easiest to exploit that has a very strong hero power. Trophy Hunter is probably at the top end there. So keywords in the game, because it's relevant here. You have flying, which means it will... Okay, now we gotta take a step back. It's like dominoes. Where it's like, oh, but first I have to talk about this thing. Okay. So, you're set up for your minions. You have 7 active minion slots and 4 hand slots. Now, 4 is significantly less than the hand slots you get in a game like Battlegrounds. I think you get 7 there. But the big balance for that is you can move minions between your active minions and your hand. So you can swap them out, which is a thing you couldn't do in that game. Once you played it to your board, you couldn't put it back in your hand. Now, your minion slots are arranged a little different than a game like Battlegrounds. You have 4 front slots, and then you have 3 back slots. And each of the 3 back slots feeds into 2 of the front slots. So if you have front 1, 2, 3, 4, back 1, 2, 3, back 1 is behind both front 1 and front 2. This becomes important for the support keyword. Support bonuses only affect the minions directly in front. So you have to put, in order to get a benefit from the support bonus, you have to put the support minion in the back row, and it will only support the 2 minions in front of it. So minions with flying will attack the back row first. All other minions will attack the front row until there's nothing left in the front row, and then they'll move to the back row. You attack from left to right, starting in the front, and you go across the whole front, and then you go across the whole back. Again, unless something changes this, like there's a dragon that at the start of a brawl gets an auto attack. So that one, it doesn't matter where it is, it's going to be the first minion to attack that brawl, unless your opponent also has one. And then it's like a roll of the dice to see which ones attacks first. Ranged, when it attacks another minion, will deal its combat damage, but not take combat damage from that minion. When it's attacked into, it's a normal combat where both minions do damage equal to their power to the other minion, and if that's more than the toughness you have left on that minion, it dies. Well, it more gets knocked out. With the exception of Humpty Dumpty. Once Humpty Dumpty is knocked out of a battle, he is not in your lineup when you go back to the shop. He dies. All the other ones, I guess, just get knocked out. So, ranged can be really powerful. The thing is they tend to have really small butts. So, once they're hit, they're pretty much done. But if they can get in a couple of hits before they're attacked, they're pretty strong. Support, we talked about. Support can be generic support, where it's just support, +3 attack. Nin is a 2-cost minion that does that. Or they can be a qualified support, like the Wicked Witch of the West gives evil minions in front of her +3/+2. Every ranged minion I've seen with support, it's a little tough to tell, right? Because the keywords are in bold, and it just has ranged and then support. So I wouldn't take them for ever, because you generally want to put the ranged minions in the back row, because again, they can't generally take a hit too well. So in order for them to get multiple attacks before they're blibbed, you want them to be receiving damage as late as possible. So all of these support minions that are ranged, I wouldn't take them because I thought they were ranged support. And I was like, well, that's stupid, because I don't want to put my ranged minions in the front line. That's not how we do. No, it's ranged, support, not ranged support. So those are like Sporko and Grumblegore, Baba Yaga. There's Last Breath, which is a when this minion dies ability. There's Slay, which is when it attacks and kills the minion it's attacking. Slay triggers will still happen if it dies in that combat as well, but they only trigger if it attacks, not if it's attacked into. Did I get them all? We already talked about questing. Alright, yeah, I think that's all the keywords. So, Trophy Hunter. Trophy Hunter says all of your Last Breath abilities are also Slay abilities. So, there are a good amount of Last Breath minions. And things can get pretty ridiculous. Especially there is... It's a monster... It's like something corpse. I don't remember the name of it. But its Last Breath ability is to trigger the Slay ability of another one of your minions. So with Trophy Hunter, making all of your Last Breath abilities Slay abilities, those count as Slay abilities for that effect. Yeah, I had one of those. God, I wish I could remember what it was called. This is like Grim Zombie or something like that. So I had a tripled version of that with a tripled Baba Yaga behind it. And Baba Yaga's support is like +3 attack and double Slay abilities. And then I had a treasure that doubled all my support abilities. So the one combat, I had the, whatever this monster is, in my first attack slot, and I got to attack first. It attacked. It was strong enough to kill the thing it attacked. So its Last Breath ability was a Slay ability. Which, and it was tripled, so it triggers the Slay ability twice of whatever it selects. And I had one of the mummies that the Last Breath ability is, it does damage to an opposing minion equal to its power. So I got it twice for the triple, whatever the hell this creature is. I really wish I could remember the name of it. And then the tripled Baba Yaga triples Slay abilities. So I got it twice off just the creature that attacked. And then it became 6 with Baba Yaga, because Baba Yaga tripled the doubling. And then with this treasure, it became 12. So I got 12 pops on this, and it was enough to clear my opponent's board. Oh, plus I got the Last Breath trigger because it died when it attacked. So, yeah, one attack, and I wiped their board. Because it happened to target the mummy, and not... Because I had a couple other Last Breath, like I had the monster spellbook thing, that its Last Breath ability is it casts a random spell. But it happened to target the mummy for triggering the Slay ability, and just did amazing packets of damage to the opposing minions, and did like 12 of these packets. It was pretty great. But again, with Trophy Hunter, like, you gotta find the right Last Breath abilities. If the Last Breath abilities you have kind of suck, like, you're not really getting much from it. But I would say that is probably the easiest powerful hero power to exploit. But yeah, again, there are some really powerful hero abilities, and then the ones that are more generic, that like, you're always going to be able to lean into this hero power, tend to be a little less powerful. Like Merlin, every time you cast a spell, you give one of your minions +2/+1. And it's a random minion. You don't pick it. So, sure, it can go really great. Or it can give the buff to the minion that you're planning on selling. Like, it's hit or miss. It's just how the RNG rolls for you. So yeah, all in all, pretty balanced game. Again, there are some straight up busted things you can get lucky to drift into, and then there are games where you have a hero with an incredibly powerful hero ability, but you spend the whole game fighting uphill because you can't find the minions that really lean into that ability most effectively. And sure, that's frustrating, absolutely. Now, you do have a set pattern of attacking, but what they attack is completely random. And some days, your team is like super tactical, and everything attacks into something that it can at least kill, even if it can't survive the combat. Other days, you have, 3 minions left on your opponent's board, and one of them's gigantic, and there's no way you're killing it. And they got 2 smaller ones, so you're like, well, if I attack into the 2 smaller ones, I'll take less damage. And just everything attacks into this giant-ass monster and gets glibbed, and you take a ton more damage because your minions could not attack into things that they could kill. And it's just how it goes. The randomness of this game is what keeps any one strategy from being absolutely too broken. Like, you can sometimes exploit what they call bloom patterns. When you have a minion that pops apart into multiple other minions when it dies, you can try to kind of game things a little bit to, like, well, when this dies, it'll try to spawn the minions here and here first, so I want to put a support minion behind those slots that will hopefully be able to buff them if it's still alive when this other minion dies. But generally then you're going to be putting that pop-apart minion in your front row, and you run the risk of it being the first minion to get killed, and so it's supposed to spawn multiple tokens, but again, of course, if it's trying to spawn more tokens than you have slots for, once it fills up your empty slots, you will lose any additional bonus. So, like, there's Little Bo Peep. She's a level 3 princess, I think. It's weird to me that she's a princess, but sure. When she dies, she spawns 3 1/1 sheep. So, if you put her in the front row, and she doesn't have big power and toughness on her own either, so you gotta buff her up. And if you don't, and you put her in your front row, and when your opponent attacks, their first attack goes into her, she'll only spawn 1 sheep. Because a slot will be opened when she dies, but there's no slots available for the other 2. So, you get only partial value, and that kind of sucks. So generally, minions like that, you want to put in the back row, which makes it a little harder to exploit the bloom patterns. But yeah, it's a pretty fun game. There's a lot of randomness to it that sometimes feels like the game's out to get you. And there's other times that the randomness feels like the game is rooting for you. But it's all random. The game does not care. The game does not love or hate you. It's all completely random. Much like the universe. That's not true. The universe is actually pretty predictable. Anyway, but it's a pretty fun game. It's a fun way to burn time. Like I said, I don't think you actually need to spend any money to enjoy this game. because you'll naturally accrue fairy dust and get to the point where you can start unlocking heroes. Just make sure you actually read them. Like, Muertes kept showing up as one of the paid slots, and there were a couple times I almost bought him, but I didn't. And finally showed up in a free slot, and I was like, oh, okay. So Muertes' ability is your first last breath triggers twice. I misread it as all your last breath trigger twice. You can imagine my disappointment when I realized my error. And if I had paid to unlock him, I would have been a little annoyed. Would have been my own fault for a failure to read. Again, see why I'm not a better Magic player. I don't read cards and I don't do math. The two biggest skills required for that game. And I'm like, meh. So yeah, make sure you actually read the heroes, especially if you're looking to spend fairy dust to unlock one, or gems if you bought them, and know what you're getting there. I think I went over, like, all the important pieces. One thing that's a bit different from Battlegrounds, and I don't know if this will ever change, the game is currently in early access. So, also something to keep in mind when you're buying heroes is they do mess with the power levels of things if things seem too powerful. Because they're still, like, getting a feel for what works and what doesn't. So, again, I don't think any of the current heroes need a nerf. I think some of them could use a bit of a buff to be a little better. But I think all the heroes are pretty balanced, because, like I said, the ones with the strongest hero powers rely on you being able to find what you need to exploit it. And sure, some percentage of the time, you're going to find the perfect comp to lean incredibly hard into your hero power, and you're just going to completely demolish the lobby. But more often than not, you're going to end up somewhere a little more middling. You're going to have to work a little harder for it. And sure, you may still win, but it was a fight to get there. I would like to see them get rid of the fucking copycat minion. So copycat, when it attacks, it's not a slay ability, it's not a last breath ability, it's just when it attacks. It triggers the last breath abilities of the minions behind it. Is it last breath? Pretty sure it's last breath. So, yeah, you can do some really silly things with that. Now, is it going to get to attack more than once? Is it going to get to attack even once? Maybe not. But it leads to some really ridiculous situations. But they are, like, adding new minions, and they've added a couple new heroes. So in Battlegrounds, they had so many minion types that when you queued up and got to the hero selection screen, it would tell you what minion types were included and which weren't. And it got to the point where it was like 3 minion types were excluded from each lobby. So far, we haven't reached that point in Storybook Brawl. Now, I don't know if every minion in the game is always available in the lobby, or if it does cycle something in and out behind the scenes, just not a full tribe. But You know, because there are games where, like, I never see a certain minion that I'm looking for because my comp, like, kind of needs it. But it's just that because it's not included in the lobby and that's just not made known, or is it just that I'm getting unlucky on my rolls, you know? So I don't want to say that they, like, shadow exclude minions, but because it very much could be just that I'm getting unlucky. Because as you level up, it's not like it stops offering you the lower level minions. So your pool just kind of keeps getting bigger. So when you're looking for these top end minions, it's a smaller percentage chance you're going to roll the specific minion you're looking for, because your pool of minions that you can possibly roll is so much bigger. Costs. So that's another big difference from Battlegrounds. Battlegrounds, every minion you bought costs you 3 gold. And they all sold back for 1 unless something on the minion said otherwise. So in Storybook Brawl, the minion's cost is equal to its level. So your level 2 minions cost you 2 gold, 3 cost you 3, and so on and so forth up to 6. They all sell back for 1 gold, which is a little bit of feels bad. You know, when you spend 5 gold on a minion and then end up, you know, having to change what you're doing or whatever, you end up getting rid of it and you still only get 1 gold back. But it still seems pretty balanced. Like, yeah, it kind of sucks where it's like, oh, I just bought this expensive ass minion last turn. You go into combat and you're like, wow, that really didn't work out the way I thought it would. Let me try to find something better to replace it, and you only get 1 gold when you sell it back. But by that point, you're getting 12 gold each turn, or possibly more, because there are minions that have effects during the combat that increase the gold you get in the next shopping phase. Like, there's the Dwarf Greedy. Every time it survives damage when it gets hit, you get an additional gold the next shopping phase. So I have, it's like a level 4 dwarf. And I am a fan of the dwarfs comp. Yeah, there's no tribe that I'm like, yeah, fuck that tribe. They're all pretty decent. But dwarves and tree ants are probably my 2 favorite. You know, if I'm not on a hero that dictates I go in a different direction. So I had this thing, you know, so pumped up, like, I was pumping spells in it to increase its toughness. I had the support dwarf Fanny behind it. I had a Princess White, which gave all my dwarves +2/+2 because she was upgraded. So, like, I gave this thing the biggest butt I could, and I've gotten like 5 or 6 gold off of it, which definitely helps. Like, you do kind of get to the point where your APM is the barrier to doing everything you want to do, as opposed to you're limited by the gold you have. So it's just, it does kind of sting a little to spend a bunch of gold on a minion that you end up having to sell back the next tavern phase and you only get 1 gold for it. Gold you don't spend in the shopping phase does not carry over to the next shopping phase unless you have an effect that says so. Like, there's a treasure, I think it's Piggy Bank, that says, you know, gold you don't spend carries over to the next shopping phase. So if you have 2 gold left and there is a 2-cost minion in the shop, your choices are A, just let that gold expire, you know, tip the gingerbread man. B, roll 2 more times. Or C, just grab one of the 2-cost minions and put it in your hand and basically bank a gold for the next turn. If you have the hand slots for it. But yeah, that's pretty much how the game works. It's pretty fun. Like I said, I don't think you really need to spend any money. Like, yeah, I used all, I think it's 300 gems you get with the $5 early backer pack. I spent them all on buying heroes that I wanted to play, sure. But if I didn't have that 300 gems, would it have really had a negative effect on my play experience? Probably not. Like, yeah, there are some times where you get offered the 4 heroes and the 2 free ones you're offered, like, really kind of suck and you don't want either of them. And you really want one of the ones that you would have to pay to unlock, but you don't have the resources to do it, and that kind of sucks. But there are also times, because some of the heroes are like, I bought Kayron, because at first I was like, wow, Kayron's really good. That hero ability is your first minion to die each combat gets permanent +2/+1. It's pretty good in the early game, but as the game goes on, this ability becomes less and less relevant. So I was like, yeah, this hero is great. Nah, not really. It's not. So there are times where even all 4 of the heroes I'm offered, like, they're all unlocked, because I've unlocked so many of them. And I'm still like, you all suck. I don't want any of you. You know, and that's just kind of how it goes. But I think you can have a real good time playing this game without spending any money. Though, if you do play and you find you're enjoying it, maybe worth considering buying one of the merch packs just to support them and kind of give them a reason to keep developing it. I'm sure they're going to increase the monetization in this game at some point, because I can't imagine the current monetization is sustainable. Because, like, once you've unlocked all the heroes, you have nothing else to spend your resources on until they add new heroes. And there's heroes that, like, yeah, I would never pay to unlock them. Like, I am never going to pay to unlock Morgana. Her hero ability is when you hit 20 life, you get a free treasure, and then when you hit 5 life, you get another one equal to your level. It's just not great, because you gotta kind of be behind for the hero power to trigger. And sure, if you get lucky, it'll be enough to, you know, kind of help you stabilize and get back in the game. But if you're not, you're dying. Like, sure, it might help you go from being in a position where you'd be in, like, 6th place to, like, eking into the top 4. But in general, I don't think she's great. So I would never pay for her. And I feel like they have to do something else to monetize, even if it's like custom hero images or emote packs or something like that, you know, basically cosmetic stuff. But yeah, I feel like they're gonna have to monetize a little more. But I don't know, because, like, with Battlegrounds, there was, like, the Tavern Pass you could buy, so that you're offered 4 heroes instead of 2, but, like, that was it. That was, like, the only thing you could spend money on in that game. So maybe this is more sustainable than I'm thinking. But yeah, right now, I think the free-to-play experience is very quality. I don't think, like, most games that are like, oh yeah, it is free to play with an option to pay to play, and you find very quickly that trying to play free-to-play mode, like, sucks. It's just not an enjoyable game. Like, I remember when we did the EQ2 free-to-play subscriptions, and it was awful. Like, you only had 2 bag slots, and you couldn't equip even master-crafted gear, and so your gear always sucked. You couldn't use the broker, so you couldn't make in-game currency. Like, it was just such a shitty play experience that I'm like, I wouldn't call this playing the game. And, like, Magic Arena claims that, oh yeah, you can totally play Arena for free. Not if you like winning. Like, you can't. So, yeah, at this point, this is probably, like, the best free-to-play experience I've seen in a very long time, that you can actually really enjoy this game and get to play it with the free-to-play experience. But yeah, if you do play it and you enjoy it, you may want to consider, you know, buying one of the the packs just to kind of support them and give them a reason to keep making the game. Because I'd like to see it stick around personally. It is my current, like, idle time sink. Like, I don't want to think about anything. Like, I don't want to have to focus on anything too hard. I just want to do something that's fun and kind of not really mindless, but not, like, super strategic. There is strategy to this game. I don't want to make it sound like, because, like, they just had this big tournament that you had to be mythic ranked to get into and everything. I don't want to make it sound like those players didn't work for it, but I generally play this game while I'm doing 3 or 4 other things at the same time. And I made it to legendary rank, which is the rank right below mythic. So now I haven't made it to mythic. I've gotten close a couple times, and then I just bleed MMR all over the place back down to, like, the bottom of the legendary rank. That is one thing. The rank bands lock. So once you hit the next rank band, because it's like Squire, then Knight, then Royal, then Legend, then Mythic, I think. Something like that. Once you cross the threshold into the next rank band, you can't sink back below it. You can't go backwards in rank bands. But yeah, I haven't been able to hit Mythic yet. But I'm okay with that. Like, that doesn't really bother me. But yeah, it's a fun game to play, and I really think the free-to-play experience is pretty quality. Sure, there's some times where you really wish you had the resources to unlock another hero, but like I said, over the course of playing the game, you accrue fairy dust. You accrue fairy dust pretty quickly, so you can still buy heroes without putting money into the game. It just takes a little longer. But anyway, that's all I got. I'm probably going to talk about Magic next week, so it's probably going to devolve into another bitch fest, because I got feelings. Like, I'm annoyed. I'm annoyed when I look at digital Magic, I guess is how it is. I still like going to F&M and, you know, interacting with my LGS community and everything. I don't know, the cash grabbing's getting pretty excessive. But anyway, yeah, so we'll probably talk about that next week. I don't know, or maybe I'll come up with something else to talk about. There's been a lot of big updates to Phasmo, but we really haven't been playing. I enjoy watching some of the content creators that I watch for Phasmo play, but they have, quote-unquote, improved the game to make it more challenging to the point that I'm not sure it's enjoyable for me anymore. Like, I get it if you're a hardcore gamer that you're like, yeah, I played Dark Souls and I enjoy it. It makes me happy. Like, I played Dark Souls for like 2 hours, and husband politely requested that I never play that game again because I got so fucking wound up over it. Because I'm not great at video games. I enjoy them, but I am not great at them. And Dark Souls is a completely unforgiving game. I didn't mean to get hung up on that, but like, I think it's fine to have ultra super hard mode for the players that enjoy that, but I think a lot of games kind of fall flat on the casual gamer. Like, I just want a fun experience kind of play. So like, Phasmo still has the amateur difficulty setting where you get the 5 minutes of startup time and everything, but the ghosts have gotten more powerful and more aggressive. So once you're outside of that 5 minutes, it's become a lot dicier. And like, they didn't really improve the amateur at all, but they added nightmare mode. I would really love to see them add the training mode where you could group with other people and add equipment, because right now, like, the training mission you can only do solo and you can only do with starter equipment. And I would like to see them add a gameplay mode kind of like that, where you could group with people and load up all your equipment. Sure, you don't get XP or money for playing it, but the ghosts can't actually hunt you or can't kill you during the hunt. I would love to see something like that. It would probably bring back my enjoyment of this game. I don't know why, but I have this completely unreasonable fear of dying in that game, even though I've watched InSim die probably 50 or so times. While he's been like, well, let's see how much faster this guy... Oh, shit! So, like, I've kind of, you know, secondhand experienced it, but I'm still, like, unreasonably afraid of dying in this game. And I get, like, it's a horror game, it's supposed to be scary, but, like, I want horror light, I guess. I don't know. I'm not trying to bitch about it and be like, oh, you know, they completely ruined this game. No, I think the game's great, and if you are one of those more hardcore player that's, you know, really likes a challenge and everything, I think there's a ton of gameplay for you in that. But if you're a scaredy cat casual gamer like I am, I think it may have tripped the line into being too aggressive for players like me, which is fine. Not everything has to be for me, and I got way more than the $20 I paid for my license of that game in entertainment from before all these changes. But there have been a ton of changes, so I may talk about those a little bit, just because I've done episodes on Phasmo before. There's a couple other... they're similar, but like also significantly different games that have come out, Obsidio and Ghost _ that I know about just because I watch InSim. They look pretty neat, but they are also way more hardcore. Like, I will never play those games. I do enjoy watching other people play them, but I will not. I also have been, like, playing a lot of Raft when I have random free time. I play on the mode where the shark can't kill you. Because, again, like, I'm just a casual gamer. I don't want there to be fear and pain and terror. But that's been fun. So, yeah, I got a couple other things to talk about. So, I don't know. I may talk about Magic next week, or I may talk about something else. I think I kind of want to put off talking about Magic because, yeah, it's just going to turn into angsty ranting. And there's only so much tolerance for that, you know? But anyway, I got to get going. As always, if you made it this far with me, thank you very much for listening, and hopefully I'll talk to you all again next week.